Right, let me take you back to a time when The Punisher was the coolest thing, or at least it was to young me. Because the Punisher game made by Volition, I think Volition went out of business. I feel like they did like a hell of a run and across like many classic awesome games. And the Punisher game was, like this awesome sort of third-person shooter. You could grab different NPCs, you could do all these different stunt interrogations. With
grabbing.
With lots of grabbing.
Moving.
And you could dip a dude's face in a piranha tank and it was incredible. And you could put him in a chroma in like a car room. He came out all chrome and he's like, oh, chrome, and it was great. And so back then as well in the 2000s, 24 was doing the rounds. Interrogation and torture wasn't the clearly horrific thing that we all know it as today. It was very much the in thing to do. But anyway, in the Punisher,
we were all coming off the Attitude Era. I
was going to say it was like the interrogation Attitude era, and very much doing the rounds. But in the Punisher anyway, that game's storytelling device is to do the whole thing in flashback. You're sitting in Matt Murdock's in it as well, but you're sitting in this in this prison being interrogated, being asked about what the hell happened to get you to that point, and you get to the very end, and you're you break out of the prison. And you fight Bullseye, and then Kingpin, who you've had a very tiny interaction with at that point, turns up and leaves the whole thing on a cliffhanger where Kingpin says he's going to be coming after you. He needs to make sure that he uses the right means to hunt you down because nothing's worked until that point. And it kind of felt like they were going directly into a sequel, directly into a whole continuation of it. But obviously over the years, THQ went completely sideways. Volition didn't manage to keep going very well. I can't off the top of my head think whether Volition's still alive or not. In my head,
they did the Red Faction stuff, didn't they?
They did the Red Faction stuff, yeah. It's like the Guerrilla remastered and whatever. But I feel like for whatever reason, they didn't get to continue their Punisher stuff. And we haven't had a Punisher game since. There was a horrible first-person shooter arena deathmatch thing tied into the Punisher movie of like 2008. But that movie was bad. Warzone, and the game was terrible as well. I played it once and then deleted it, and I was a huge Punisher fan back then. So it's the Punisher 2004, incredible game, but it just ends on the most and we've got more for you that they never got to at all. And as a big old Punisher fan, that was a bit of a stinker, I might say.
Right, so I have a thing. I have many things, but one of my prominent things is what tends to happen is I go and buy an entire console for the sake of playing one game. I got a PS1 for Christmas because I wanted to play Final Fantasy VII. I got a PS2 for Christmas because I wanted to play SmackDown. I have bought every single Nintendo console purely to play the Pokemon game that has just come out on it. But for PC gaming, that game was Starcraft. I managed to convince my mom that we needed a family computer to enter the millennium as like advanced people. All I wanted to do was play Starcraft. I absolutely adored Starcraft. It got me into like RTS games, got me into loads of strategy games, got me into sci-fi actually, to be honest. But I loved Starcraft. And in Starcraft, there is this story. The short version is that there is this race of insecty, buggy creatures coming across the galaxy, consuming all life. Kind of very similar to Starship Troopers, consuming all life in their way. And on the other end is this race of advanced, psychic, like pure creatures who have retained like the highest level of being they can. And if the big bad monsters, the Zerg, consume the Protoss, they are unstoppable forever.
Is there an evil Emperor Zerg?
Yeah, there's a giant big brain bug, not unlike Starship Troopers. If the Zerg ever get their hands on the Protoss, that is it. It is game over forever. But in a secret mission, at the end of the second game, it is revealed that some goddamn idiot bumpkin hick bastards have, for a laugh, gene-spliced a Protoss with a Zerg just to see what would happen, not realizing that is literally the thing that will lead to the end of all life in the universe. And that's the end. That's the secret ending of the second game, right?
Oh.
That was 1998. So every month for the next 2 or 3 years, I badgered my poor mother to buy me a copy of Computer Active because there was no content culture back then. I couldn't go on YouTube and find out all the latest stuff just to see if they were announcing the third StarCraft, because it's a trilogy. It's got to be a third StarCraft game. 99 went past, 2000 went past, 2001, 2003, nothing. For years and yet not a word from Blizzard about a third StarCraft game, right? To the point where I just noped out of strategy games entirely when I got to my 20s. By the time I got to university, I couldn't care less. PCs were for playing Football Manager and downloading porn, and that was it. I had no interest in strategy.
It's the same thing.
The thing is, if you're a StarCraft fan, you're watching this, you're probably screaming going, no, but they answered this in Wings of Liberty or whatever it's called. But the thing is, it's a cliffhanger for me. Because I just did not care about StarCraft by the time they released the third game in 20... This may well have been answered. This may well be like an established part of StarCraft lore, but I don't care. because it missed the window. They brought out one in 98, then one in 99, and then nothing for 12 years. And that was the time enough for me to bin the entire series, bin all my interest in it. So as far as I'm concerned, there is still a 25 plus year cliffhanger on what happened when they spliced the Protoss with the Zig.
What if we make it a game that we have to find a way of you accidentally getting the cliffhanger resolved? Like,
I wouldn't care. Like, I could read it right now and find out, oh, it did get resolved. I just don't care.
What if it unlocks something? What if it awakens something in you, though?
You're talking about getting... If any of us got closure on anything, we wouldn't do this video series, would we? So...
We could do a series on this and Half-Life and just getting the answers you seek. Because the Desmond's got a finale in Assassin's Creed.
Oh, here he is.
Here he is.
Desmond again. Oh, Desmond. Oh, I love Desmond.
He was a dangling cliffhanger that they've finally grasped and held in front of the world, and no one cares. It's been too long.
Not going to shag you, mate.
It's been way too long.
The year was 2010. Just about to get off to university.
Starcraft 2 had just come out.
Yeah. Video games were happening. A what's called Giant Bomb existed because of the game previous to this. And I want to know what happens after Kane and Lynch 2.
Oh, God.
I want to know what happens after Dog Days. Because have you seen the ending? Like, I just had another look and I thought, what am I going to pick this? Am I going to pick something serious? I don't know. Anything in the world? Am I going to go for it? Am I going to go for something that... IO Interactive, they're wasting their time on Hitman. They're going making this stupid Bond game that I'm just recording the list for right now, and I don't really care. I mean, I love James Bond, but what happened in Kane and Lynch? Why did they got on that plane, right? They, after just destroying what seemed like the whole world, and then screaming, full of drugs, cocaine coming out their nose, like probably $1 million in a duffel bag, shouting onto a plane. They fly off into the, well, not sunset because it's dark, and everyone's screaming, and then cut to credits. Just some nice chilled out music afterwards.
That sounds like an ending.
That's a cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger.
I want to see how Kane and Lynch get their end. I want to see.
But they got away.
They need to get. No, they didn't get away. They not like that when you've been destroying everyone. You almost killed GameSpot at one point and birthed another website. I want to see Jeff Gerstmann come back in the third one and murk them both up and ruin them. I want to see Kane and Lynch get their end.
Not to be fair, like I think that. I think it was going to be
the cliffhanger is they get on a plane.
I'm getting involuntary eyebrow spasms.
Don't tell me what cliffhanger.
The sheer bonkersness of
that, and it cuts straight to black, and there's screaming and shouting, and done. That is a cliffhanger in my eyes.
Some evil wizard has broken into your flat, put the do-rag of nonsense on your head, and sent you out to do this video.
I need to know what happens after this.
My cliffhanger is not knowing how Ben Roy's entry is actually going to end, because I now need to know what happens after the Kane and Lynch 2 outburst. That's it. No, I've got the biggest, the most infamous cliffhanger in my gaming experience has to be. It's quite topical now because the game has just been re-released on PlayStation and Xbox, and that is Star Wars Republic Commando. Obvious spoilers, if you haven't played the game, you should, because it is now more accessible if you didn't get the chance to play it back when it dropped in 2005, along with the bajillion other Star Wars titles that released that year. Essentially, the premise of the game, you play a clone trooper commando, not like the ARC troopers, they're like a tier above almost, and you do loads of super secret missions for the Republic during the Clone Wars. The ending of the game ties into pretty much the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, not with the Chancellor's abduction over Coruscant, but in terms of the Battle of Kashyyyk, and you actually do the final mission. You have to rescue Tarful for a bunch of Trandoshan slavers who are working with the Separatists, and the final mission involves you having to basically man some big anti-aircraft guns to stop a Separatist destroyer going overhead. And all throughout this game, you've been getting accustomed to your fellow squad mates, Scorch, Fixer, and Sev. The ending involves you splitting up your squad to go basically take these anti-aircraft guns. And then at the end of the game, you just hear Sev going over the radio being like, "Oh, I'm being overwhelmed, boss. I can't." And then the communication just cuts. And then the cuts, and then you get on a gunship, and they're like, "Well, we have to rescue Seb," and then he's just like, "Nah, you gotta get out." And now we don't know what's gonna happen to Seb. And the worst part about this is that they had, during the LucasArts banter years, when they had they were just announced Star Wars games, or they wouldn't announce them, but they'd be working on like very obvious sequels to their Star Wars games. Exactly. Attitude era, the era that I have no experience with. And then they would just cancel them, and they just cancelled Star Wars Imperial Commando, which was going to pick up with them during Order 66 and the Rise of the Empire.
It just made me think of another Star Wars game that's cancelled, Jedi Outcast 3 or Academy 3 or whatever the hell. That would have been a much better one than Kane and Lynch. I want to see what happens to Kyle Katarn rather than him being...
That's not a cliffhanger either! That's
it is. Have you played that game?
Jedi Academy 2 does not end on a cliffhanger.
Man, have you been a Sith in that game when you murk Kyle Katarn? He's covered in rough.
That's not the canon ending. I mean, none of it's canon anymore. That's less canon than the canon ending.
When there's no ending, it's gone.
What?
You're not the canon master. Your cannonballs like this is canon. This is not canon.
Cannonballs. Cannonballs.
Cannonballs would be a really good show.
Right, is it just started randomly like having a blizzard outside?
Yeah, it's been all day clear.
And also on this Zoom call.
I'm really enjoying this. It's like the episode of Friends where Joey doesn't know what quotation marks mean.
I love you.
Yeah, well, for one, I can't stress enough how little I care about the game Call of Duty Ghosts, but at the same time, I also can't stress how much the cliffhanger at the end of Call of Duty Ghosts lives rent-free in my head. It's such a absolutely like boilerplate story about like this kind of near future post-nuclear apocalypse Call of Duty conflict where you play as the titular ghost, this band of, you know, super soldiers more or less, and you're going up against this guy called, I'm pretty sure he's called Rock, who used to be a ghost. Who used to be a ghost, but then through torture and brainwashing and hallucinogenics is now the leader of the opposing force. So anyway, you know, you do the Call of Duty thing, you go through a bunch of explosions, you take down Rock at the very end, you shoot him, looks like he's drowned, but he hasn't. At the end, he comes back and he's
a fish.
He's Cthulhu. He comes out the water. He rises up. No, I wish that would have been amazing. He just turns up. He's alive. He's fine, and he drags one of the main characters called Logan away to also be brainwashed.
In this.
I wish. I'm looking at all your faces now, and you're like, what's to this? Like, why do you care so much?
I'm just trying to
Goober called Logan getting taken away by another goober called Rock to be brainwashed. And to be honest, I don't know, but it's been 8 years now.
No.
And I need to know what happens after the end of this.
It's not been 8 years.
It's not been 8 years.
It's not.
It has. They came out at the very beginning of the PS4. Yeah.
2013, that's when it came out. And it was the first cross-gen.
Right.
Because the game's not very good, but I need to know what happens. I need to know what's going on with this torture. Nothing else in the game worked, but I remember Logan getting taken away, and I thought that's the best ending I've ever seen. That's the scariest, most haunting thing in the entire world, and they've never made a sequel because it didn't sell very well. Like people like Ben Roy didn't buy it, and they're never going to get around to it. They don't care about Call of Duty Ghosts. Nobody, I can't stress this enough, cares about Call of Duty Ghosts. Except me in terms of this final conclusion. And if there's anyone else out there, I need a hand. We can maybe start a group. I don't know. We can write some fan fiction about Logan and Rock, if that is their names. And we'll figure it out together, because I can't keep going on with like this, boys.
Please do your own headcanon, please. I need to read this. You can post it in like individual, like on the notes app or something, just every now and then on your own Twitter. Just like the further adventures of Call of Duty's Ghosts. And that'll be...
Dude, if I had this idea last March, April, it would have been a completely different game. I'd have started up a Tumblr or something.
Just imagine they got on that cocaine plane with Kane and Lynch and his Commando, and we're all set to go.
We'll start a new trope. If nothing gets tied off, they're just on the cocaine plane. That's just where they end up, burning into the sun.
The money plane.
Yeah,
oh no, that